We're standing here at a new feeder. Obviously the feeding location's been here, but we didn't feed here last year.
Yep.
And the idea was, we call this feeder cholla, and it's just a cholla flat. I mean, there's cholla everywhere. We saw a lot of deer here last year. So you made the decision that we're gonna feed alfalfa, raisins, and protein. We've got a camera set right here. Is this just a one camera set?
This is just a one camera set, yes.
So we got a one camera set here. Notice how we've got the trough there, the feeder here, so that it's gonna get everything. Now this is the only feeding location on the ranch that does not have water.
It's the only feeding location that does not have water, and it's also the only location that we're only running one camera.
Okay.
Our plan is to expand it, get water here, and then we'll have dual sets.
But we run dual sets on every.
Let me pause this video here for a second and just see what we got. This is part of the reason why we decided to put it here.
So this flat is just a doe flat, and we think during the rut, one of the benefits there, Blake, where those deer are, if you see in the distance, there's two nice glassing points. There's one straight over the deer, and there's one more to the right. And those glassing points will be key to be able to, see what's running around on this flat. And we think because of the amount of does that are here, if we can keep them happy, that the bucks will show up. So this is a great job, Cramer. I like this set.
Thank you.
Now over here in this dirt, did you put any mineral out, or is that just where?
No, that's just where the javelina dug and spent some time.
Okay.
But last year we did not feed at this location, but I did spend a little time on those buttes glassing, and there's enough does in this area that we draw a lot of bucks from the east out of that flat that we normally wouldn't get, but they come here for the does. And like Jay said, we want to keep them happy, we want to keep them on our ranch, and we want an ability to see them.
Yeah. So you just banged on the feeder.
Yeah.
The guys have been sheep hunting with us the last few days, so they're going to make a round tomorrow and fill everything up. But I mean, he tapped on the feeder, and immediately these deer came in. So they're wanting what we're providing, and that's a good sign. So.
Well, and on a year like this where it's been just so dry, this is normally a dry area anyway, but this year has been extremely dry, and there's not a lot of available browse, natural browse. So we've been feeding, and it's been working, and we've been keeping our deer in good shape, and we've been keeping the deer on our ranch.
Awesome. Let's go check the next one. The reason on these ranches in Mexico, the reason that we run feeders and we run drinkers is because it's a very arid climate down here, and we need to do everything that we can to help the deer in their body condition, keep them well hydrated, keep the nutrition so that their body condition is in a good shape, so that they grow antlers, and that the does then will come into cycle, and they'll want to be bred, they'll be bred, they'll have babies. One of the things with the cameras is we've noticed a ton of fawns. Would you agree? Even as dry as it is, we've
Absolutely.
Had an amazing amount of fawns.
And it's very unusual for a year like this to see the amount of fawns that we've been seeing on our cameras. And honestly, we wouldn't see that if we didn't provide the water, the food, the nutrients that they need to be able to not only carry those fawns, but then birth them as well as nurse them. That takes an extreme amount of energy out of those does' bodies, and their bodies would tell them that they are not healthy enough to carry those fawns and give birth to them unless they had good protein, good water, good minerals that we've been providing.
Yeah, and so it's real common here in Mexico for the landowners and the outfitters both to kind of work in conjunction to try and have as healthy a deer herd and healthy and a robust of a population as possible. And that's what we're doing here on the ranch. This next feeder, we've had some success there with some photos of some different bucks and whatnot. It's also set under a couple of knobs for glassing, which makes it nice because you can crawl up there and kind of see these deer that are working out in these flats. How would you rate this next feeder that we're going to? Is it just an average feeder, or is it above average?
It's an above average feeder, and what's kind of unique about it is we have both coos deer and mule deer that use it. It's also has the glassing knobs that you said, but what's really key about it is those glassing knobs are within shooting distance. So we do have a number of bucks using this feeder location. We have a lot of does, and some of the bucks are going to be some really young up and comers that we're going to keep an eye on, and we want to keep them on our ranch because they're right on that cusp of being trophy potential, and we don't want them to go to our neighbors and get shot. We want to keep them on our ranch the best we can. And this feeder is somewhat close. I mean, it's well within our ranch boundaries, but it's close enough that what deer do come from other places, we want to give them a reason to stay here. And this has been a really good feeder for us to do just that. And we get a lot of activity on it. So I'd rate it a little bit above average as far as our feeders go.
And our goal collectively as our team is we want to grow these deer, we want to preserve these deer, we want these deer to have a safe place to live, we want to shoot management bucks, shoot cull bucks, and try and grow as big a deer as possible. But more than anything, we try and limit the harvest so that we can let deer grow, get age on them, and that's super important when you're trying to grow trophy bucks. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Without that ingredient, we just wouldn't have a ranch that we would be proud of.
Right.
And we're proud of it not just for the trophy potential, but for what we're doing for the deer herd. We have a lot of does, and that shows and that tells me that we're doing a very good job with what we're doing as far as management, as far as providing the feed. And it's just a very enjoyable place to be, but it's also something to be very proud of, and that's exactly what our team is trying to do.
Now, most of the feeders and drinkers, like we're going to get to see a drinker set here.
Correct.
All of the 22 drinker feeder sets obviously have a drinker, except for the last one we were at does not have a drinker yet. Typically, what is the distance or the spread between our feeders, would you say in general?
I would say in general a mile or more.
Okay.
Is normally what we have on this spread. As you can see, this set, we have the trough for the alfalfa. We also have a drinker, and then we have a secondary water. In the summer, it is so hot down here, and the deer are so thirsty, as well as evaporation, that we have to fill these drinkers so often that on most of them, we are putting in these secondary containments to give it more capacity so it lasts longer for the deer.
Now you'll notice this is a dual camera set. We have a camera here. We'll get out in a second and we'll have a camera there. So, we're trying to catch, the alfalfa trough, also raisins in there. We've got our protein feeder. Talk a little bit about the protein, how we shift from a high protein, low protein. And on this ranch, it's been so dry, we've just stayed with the high protein. But our other ranch, we kind of go from a high protein, low protein. Tell them why that's important.
Absolutely. So as the deer cycles through the year and the seasons change, their bodies have different requirements. So what we try and do is we try and give them the high protein when their body really needs it. And those times are when the bucks are starting to grow their antlers. So what the process is, if their body does not have enough nutrients, all of their available consumption of feed goes straight to their body. What we want to do is provide their body where it's nice and healthy, so all of the excess then goes into the antler growth and the development of the buck. So it also works well when we're having does that are getting ready to be bred, but more importantly, when they're getting ready to give birth for fawns. So it's very, very important that we feel to provide that high protein certain times. So what we do is typically in May, June, July, August, and September, when the bucks lose their antlers and they're starting to grow new ones, we give the high protein. We give that high protein so their bodies has all the nutrients they need. But then we also do it after the rut. So typically starting in February again, we'll bring that high protein back so their bodies can recover. But that's also time that the does are starting to develop the fawns inside their bodies, and their body requires a lot. So we vary it depending on what the deer need.
Cool. Let's take a look at this. So as you can see here, you can just see all the tracks. This set is actually unique because it has Coues deer out on the flats and has mule deer both. More mule deer than Coues, but it does have both here.
It does, yes. And we get a lot of the Coues down off of these little knobs. But like you said, it's primarily a mule deer set.
So the way you have the camera set here is that's pretty much picking everything that's coming to the protein. And then this camera set is going to pick up everything that's coming to the drinker. But the thing I like about it is you're getting the drinker, but you're also getting the alfalfa and raisin trough in the back.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about the raisins and what they do as far as for the deer.
So the raisins are basically a treat. It's an attractant. As far as nutrition to their body, it does not do a lot. However, what we do that's fairly different than a lot of other outfitters is we actually put raisins with the alfalfa. So they're actually coming to the attractant, but then they have the alfalfa to give the nutrition that their body needs. And another point that I'd like to make on that is with the alfalfa, if we just fed alfalfa or just fed protein, their bodies don't necessarily break it down and consume all of the available nutrients. So we give the protein along with the alfalfa, and then the roughage of the alfalfa allows their bodies to break that protein down so they can use it to the full benefit.
Awesome. This is a good looking set. It's great because you've got glassing points here. On this particular set over at the cholla feeder, someone could sit here and actually watch this and watch that.
Absolutely.
And then watch the flats in between, watching the deer come and go.
Yep.
You can see the trails kind of coming in and out here where, I mean, the deer are literally coming from every direction right here.
And another neat thing about this set is we actually have another glassing point that's just around, and you can actually be on that glassing point and you can see two of our other feeders that are off to the south. You can look at this feeder. Now you couldn't necessarily shoot, but you can keep eyes on them and tabs on them, and then you could also look back to the north and see the cholla feeder.
Cool. This set looks great. A lot of track, a lot of sign.